The steam hit me like a confession I wasn't ready to hear, thick and unrelenting, wrapping around my bare skin as I sank onto the cedar bench. Chris's voice cut through the haze first. "Dude, you look like you're about to bolt." His words landing heavier than the towel slipping from his waist, exposing not just his body but the raw, unfiltered truth of our friendship teetering on the edge of something irreversible. In that suffocating heat, with sweat beading on my forehead and my heart pounding like a drum in a storm, I realized the man I'd called my straight best friend for 8 years was staring at me not with judgment, but with an understanding that shattered every lie I'd built around myself. I met Chris freshman year at UCLA, back when the California sun felt like a promise instead of a spotlight scorching my secrets. We were thrown together in a cramped dorm room on the 3rd floor of Hedrick Hall, the kind of setup where you bond over late-night ramen and shared misery of 8 a.m. lectures. He was the golden boy from Orange County, tall, broad-shouldered, with sun-bleached hair that always smelled faintly of salt and surf wax. Chris played water polo for the Bruins, the type who could charm a professor into an extension with a grin and a half-assed excuse about practice running long. I was Alex Rivera, the quiet psych major from a sleepy suburb in the Midwest, where cornfields stretched like unanswered questions and my parents' evangelical church whispered that boys like me, boys who stole glances at the quarterback in gym class, were headed for Hellfire specials. We clicked because opposites attract, or so the rom-coms say, but it was more like survival. Chris dragged me to frat parties where I'd nurse a single beer in the corner, watching him hold court with sorority girls who giggled at his dumb jokes. In return, I proofread his essays, turning his stream of consciousness rants into something resembling coherence. "You're my secret weapon, Riv," he'd say, clapping me on the back hard enough to jolt my ribs. That touch, brotherly, casual, became the anchor I didn't know I needed, a reminder that friendship could be safe, uncomplicated. Or so I told myself. By junior year, we'd upgraded to a beat-up apartment off Wilshire Boulevard, the kind with peeling paint and a balcony overlooking a parking lot that doubled as our stargazing spot on clear nights. Chris was dating around, nothing serious. A barista named Mia 1 month, a poli-sci TA the next, but he always came home with stories that made me laugh until my sides ached. I'd nod along, forcing enthusiasm, while inside, a quiet ache bloomed. See, I'd known I was gay since high school, but admitting it felt like handing over a loaded gun in a room full of lit matches. My family back in Ohio, they'd pray for my soul until their knees bled. The campus scene? Too risky, too exposed. So I buried it, deep as a winter frost, and let Chris be my shield. That's when Harry entered the picture, like a plot twist in one of those indie films we binged on lazy Sundays. We met him at a queer poetry slam in West Hollywood. Chris had insisted on going after I let slip, in a tipsy moment, that I'd always wanted to check it out. "Come on, bro, live a little," he'd said, tossing me the keys to his Jeep. The venue was a dimly lit bookstore cafe hybrid, shelves crammed with dog-eared Ginsberg and Baldwin, the air thick with incense and unspoken longings. Harry was on stage, mid-20s like us, with sharp cheekbones, a mop of dark curls that fell just so, and eyes like polished obsidian that locked onto the audience as he recited lines about fractured identities and stolen glances. "Love isn't a straight line," he said, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the floorboards. "It's a detour through the shadows, where you find the parts of yourself you swore you'd never show." The crowd snapped instead of clapped, fingers popping like firecrackers, and I felt it in my chest, a spark igniting the dry tinder I'd ignored for years. Chris nudged me afterward, whispering, "That guy's got fire. You digging the vibe?" I mumbled something non-committal, but my cheeks burned hotter than the espresso I'd chugged. We ran into Harry again at a coffee shop near campus the next week. He was scribbling in a battered notebook, earbuds in, oblivious until Chris, ever the social magnet, slid into the seat across from him. "Poet dude from the slam, right? That piece on shadows? Killer." Harry looked up, surprised but pleased, and just like that, the three of us were entangled. Harry was a film student, originally from Brooklyn, with a laugh that started soft and built to a crescendo, like waves crashing on a pier. He talked fast, gestures wild, quoting Scorsese 1 minute and Audre Lorde the next. With me, he was gentler, lingering eye contact over lattes, a hand brushing mine when passing the sugar. "You're quiet, Alex," he'd say. "But I bet there's a storm under there." Chris watched it all with his easy grin, oblivious or maybe not, and for the first time I let myself imagine a world where the ache could be more than just a bruise. Our trio became inseparable. Weekends blurred into hikes in the Hollywood Hills, where Harry would pause at viewpoints to snap Polaroids, me with wind-tousled hair against the city sprawl, Chris flexing dramatically on a boulder, Harry capturing it all with that artist's eye. Evenings were dive bars in Silver Lake, nursing IPAs while Harry dissected the latest Tarantino flick and Chris countered with tales of his latest polo victory. I floated between them, caught in the gravity of two worlds. Chris's straight-laced normalcy, Harry's electric pull towards something unspoken. One night, after too many shots at the Roosterfish, Harry leaned in close on the patio, his breath warm against my ear. "You ever feel like you're playing a role in your own life, Alex? Like the script's written, but you're ad-libbing the parts that scare you most?" His fingers grazed my wrist, a question wrapped in touch, and I froze, heart slamming against my ribs. "Every day?" I whispered, and he smiled like he'd known all along. But cracks formed, subtle at first. Chris started pulling back. Not dramatically, but in the way he'd cancel plans last minute for dates that went nowhere, or zone out during our movie nights, staring at his phone like it held state secrets. "Everything good, man?" I'd ask, and he'd shrug it off with a, "Yeah, just tired from practice." Harry noticed too, pulling me aside after a group hike. "Your boy's got something eating at him. You think it's us? The vibe." I laughed it away. "Nah, Chris is solid." But doubt seeded like dandelions in sidewalk cracks. Summer hit like a heat wave, internships scattering us. I stayed local, interning at a counseling center in Echo Park, listening to clients unpack their traumas while mine sat coiled in my gut. Harry jetted off to a film workshop in Austin, promising daily texts that dwindled to sporadic emojis. Chris. He holed up at his parents' beach house in Newport, surfing dawn patrols and avoiding calls. "Need space, Riv," he texted once. "Family stuff." I let it slide, filling the void with runs along Venice Beach, pounding pavement until my lungs burned, pretending the salt air could scour away the loneliness. We reconvened in August, tanned and restless, at a backyard barbecue thrown by mutual friends. The air hummed with grill smoke and indie rock, fairy lights strung like constellations overhead. Harry arrived first, pulling me into a hug that lingered a beat too long, his curls tickling my neck. "Missed you, Storm Boy." Chris showed up late, beer in hand, eyes shadowed under the brim of his Dodgers cap. We fell into old rhythms. Chris manning the grill, Harry charming the crowd with stories. But the energy felt off, like a guitar string tuned half a step sharp. That's when it happened, the first real fracture. I caught them arguing in the side yard, voices low but edged with gravel. "You can't just pretend it didn't happen," Harry was saying, frustration lacing his words. Chris shot back, "It was one time, man. One stupid night. Doesn't change shit." My stomach dropped, a stone in freefall. I backed away before they saw me, pulse thundering, piecing together fragments. A drunken hookup? Chris and Harry? The golden boy and the poet? It didn't compute, but the image lodged in my brain like shrapnel. I confronted Harry alone the next day, over tacos at a food truck on Sunset. "What the hell was that about last night?" he sighed, poking at his Al Pastor with a plastic fork. "It was nothing, Alex. A lapse. Chris had too much to drink after a game. We crashed at my place. Things got blurry. Blurry. The word hung between us, euphemistic and evasive. "You're straight," I said, the accusation flat as day-old beer. Harry met my eyes, unflinching. "Labels are bullshit. But yeah, mostly. It doesn't mean I don't." He stopped, reaching for my hand. But I pulled back, the betrayal blooming hot and immediate. Not just the act, but the secrecy, the way it had poisoned the air without me knowing. Chris called that evening, voice thick like he'd been crying. "Heard you talk to Harry. Look, Riv, it was a mistake." I panicked. "Okay? I'm not." I'm not like that. The plea in his tone cracked something in me. Anger, yes, but laced with pity. Then why hide it? From me? Silence stretched. Then, because you're my best friend, and I didn't want to lose that. We hung up unresolved, the line dead as a dropped call. The weeks that followed were a minefield. Group hangs fizzled. Harry threw himself into editing a short film, Chris into training camp. I oscillated between them. Lunches with Harry that crackled with unspoken tension. Pick-up basketball with Chris where every pass felt loaded. The ache deepened, morphing from desire to disillusionment. Harry tried to bridge it once, cornering me after a screening of his workshop piece. A raw short about hidden loves in urban sprawl. Alex, what we have, it's real. That night with Chris? It was curiosity, nothing more. But you. His hand cupped my jaw, thumb tracing my lip, and for a heartbeat, I leaned in, then pulled away. I can't do half measures, Harry. Not with this. Chris, meanwhile, withdrew further, our texts turning curt, our calls going to voicemail. Rumors trickled in from mutuals. Chris seen at straight bars, picking fights with guys who looked too long at him. Harry posting cryptic quotes on Instagram about loving the broken parts. I drowned in it. Therapy sessions at the counseling center bleeding into my own unraveling. What are you most afraid of? My supervisor asked. Being seen, I admitted, voice small. Really seen. Fall semester loomed. Crisp air chasing away the summer haze, but the weight lingered. One rainy Tuesday, Chris texted out of the blue. Sauna at the gym? 7 p.m. We need to talk. My gut twisted. UCLA's Athletic Center sauna. The men's one. A steamy confessional I'd avoided since freshman year. But I went, towel clutched like a shield. The eucalyptus-scented mist enveloping me as I pushed through the door. He was already there, sprawled on the upper bench, sweat carving rivers down his chest. Sit, he said, patting the wood beside him. I did, the heat seeping into my bones, loosening knots I didn't know were there. Minutes passed in silence, the only sound our breathing sinking like an old habit. Then, I'm sorry, he started, eyes fixed on the tiled floor. For everything, for lying to you, to myself. The words tumbled out. How the night with Harry had cracked open a door he'd bolted shut since high school locker rooms. Whispers of fag echoing in his ears. How he'd buried it under layers of bravado, girlfriends, goals. But seeing you with him forced me to look at it, at us. The word hung, ambiguous and electric. What do you mean? I pressed, voice barely above the hiss of steam. Chris turned then, his gaze raw, unguarded. You're gay, Alex. I knew it years ago. The way you look at guys, the excuses to skip parties. And I let myself pretend it didn't matter because you're my brother. But it does. Because I care about you. More than I should, maybe. His hand found mine in the fog, calluses rough from pool edges. And I didn't pull away. In that moment, the sauna wasn't just heat. It was revelation, the kind that strips you bare. We talked for an hour, words pouring like the sweat from our skin. Chris confessed the fear that had chained him. Disappointing his coach dad, his picture-perfect family. The hookup with Harry? A desperate grasp at understanding gone wrong. It wasn't about him, he said. It was about figuring out why I feel around you. My heart stuttered, hope warring with caution. And now, he squeezed my hand. Now I want to be honest. With you. If you'll let me. I did. We emerged from the sauna changed. The cool locker room air a shock against our flushed skin. Over post-workout burgers at In-N-Out, plans formed, therapy for him, a coming-out strategy for me. Harry faded into the background. A chapter closed with a gentle text. I need space to find my own truth. He understood, or so he said. But life, as it does, doesn't follow neat arcs. Winter break brought me home to Ohio. The flatlands a stark contrast to LA's sprawl. Mom's pot roast and Dad's awkward pats on the back felt like costumes I'd outgrown. Over Christmas Eve eggnog I came out, halting at first, then steady. I'm gay, guys. Have been for a while. The silence stretched eternal. Then Mom's tears, Dad's gruff, we love you, son. Always. It wasn't fireworks, but it was real. A bridge built from fragile words. Back in LA, Chris and I navigated the new normal. Dates, tentative, tender. Starting with hikes where we'd hold hands only when no one watched, progressing to stolen kisses in his Jeep under street lamp glow. He came out publicly that spring. A quiet post on Instagram. A photo of us at Griffith Observatory, caption reading, "Found my North Star. Proud to be me and us." Backlash hit, teammates distancing, family calls laced with concern. But he stood firm, bolstered by the community we'd tapped into. PFLAG meetings, queer film nights. Harry reappeared in June at our apartment for a reconciliation beer. Leaner now, eyes wiser, he raised a toast. To truths, messy as they are. No hard feelings. He'd found someone in Austin, a sound engineer with a laugh like thunder. We hugged it out, the betrayal transmuted to lesson. Yet the real climax brewed in August, during Chris's senior polo season. A rival team from USC, whispers of slurs in the stands, "Ferry's gonna sink," pushed him to the brink. After a brutal loss, he unraveled in our living room. Fists clenched, voice breaking. What if it's too much? What if I can't? I held him then, not as friend but partner, whispering, "You already are. Every day." That night, tangled in sheets. Not in passion's frenzy, but comfort's quiet. We forged something unbreakable. By graduation, we'd walked stages side by side, caps tossed to a sky bruised purple with promise. Chris to a coaching gig in San Diego, me to grad school in clinical psych, weekends bridged by drives down the coast. The ending? Not fairy tale perfect. Fights flare. Over his lingering closet with old teammates, my impatience with progress. But in the humanism of it all, we choose each other, daily. The sauna wasn't the end. It was the door cracked open to a life where truth, scary as it is, sets you free. Wait, no, that's too tidy. Let me rewind, because the real storm hit harder, deeper, in ways I couldn't foresee. As summer's end bled into fall's tentative chill, the harmony Chris and I chased felt more like a tightrope than solid ground. We'd fallen into a rhythm. Mornings with his protein shakes blended too loud. Evenings where I'd read case studies aloud while he sketched plays on napkins. But beneath it, fissures snaked like roots under concrete. He'd wake from nightmares, mumbling about drowned expectations, and I'd lie awake, tracing the scars on his knuckles from pool fights, wondering if love could mend what fear had wrought. Harry's shadow lingered, not as villain but echo. He'd text sporadically, "Congrats on our soft launch," as he called it. Photos from Austin festivals, his new guy photobombing with goofy grins. "You two look good," he'd write. Real. It stung, that validation from the one who'd unwittingly catalyzed it all. But I replied with thumbs-up emojis, burying the what-ifs. Chris, ever the compartmentalizer, ignored them entirely. "Past is past," he'd say, flipping channels to dodge the discomfort. Campus buzzed with midterms. The quad a kaleidoscope of stressed faces and coffee-fueled all-nighters. I threw myself into research, interviewing queer undergrads for a thesis on identity suppression. Ironic, given my own delayed bloom. One subject, a non-binary sophomore named Jordan, mirrored my old self. "It's like wearing a mask so long, you forget your face." Her words haunted me, pushing me to therapy sessions where Dr. Elena probed gently. "What does acceptance look like for you, Alex?" I'd falter, free, but terrified of the fall. Chris's season intensified. Games under floodlights where cheers masked undercurrents of scrutiny. Wins came hard-fought, losses harder. After a tie against Stanford, he came home reeking of chlorine and defeat, stripping down without a word. I followed him to the shower, the steam a familiar veil. "Talk to me?" I urged, leaning against the tile as water cascaded. He soaped up methodically, avoiding my eyes. Coach pulled me aside, said the team's distracted. "By me, by us." The admission hung, sudsy and sour. I stepped in, clothes be damned, wrapping arms around his waist. "Screw them. You're the captain." He leaned back into me, a sigh escaping like steam. "Captain of a sinking ship, maybe. That vulnerability bonded us tighter, but it also amplified the stakes. We went public incrementally. Matching profile pics. A hand on his knee at a team dinner that earned side eyes but no outright war. His parents visited in October. A whirlwind of beachside brunches and forced smiles. Over mahi-mahi at a Santa Monica spot. His mom, blonde, Botoxed, the epitome of OC polish, sipped Chardonnay and said, "We're proud of you, Christopher. Just be careful." Dad grunted agreement, eyes on his phone. Chris squeezed my thigh under the table. A silent, "We got this." But betrayal brews in the quiet hours, and ours arrived unannounced, courtesy of an old teammate named Tyler. 6'4" of frat boy entitlement. The kind who high-fived Chris through every glory. Tyler cornered me at a post-game mixer in Westwood. Breath hot with IPA. "Heard about you and C. That's some joke, right? Chris ain't no queer." I stiffened, forcing calm. "It's not a joke." He laughed, a bark that drew stares. "Betrayal's coming, mark my words. Straight dudes don't switch teams." I walked away, stomach churning, but the seed was planted doubt, insidious as fog. Chris dismissed it when I told him, "Tyler's an asshole, always has been." But the incident lingered, poisoning casual touches with hesitation. Then came the real gut punch. A leaked screenshot circulating team group chats, a blurry photo from our balcony. Me kissing Chris's neck, his head thrown back in laughter. Anonymous. Vicious. Captain's new playbook? Panic rippled. Chris's phone blew up, voicemails from coaches laced with discretion warnings. He shattered a water glass against the sink that night, shards glittering like accusations. "This is what I get for trying," he roared, voice cracking. I swept up the mess, cuts stinging my palms, whispering, "We'll fight it." We did, statements to athletics, support from the LGBTQ Center, but the damage etched deep. Harry called from Austin, voice steady. "Sounds like small-town bullshit in big-city clothes. You need backup." Grateful I declined. This was our war. Yet in the aftermath, Chris withdrew, practices stretching late, homecomings silent. "Space," he'd mutter, echoing his summer plea. I gave it, but loneliness clawed. Nights scrolling Grindr out of curiosity. Then guilt, deleting the app like a dirty secret. Thanksgiving pulled us east, separate flights to fractured homes. Mine in Ohio was tentative warmth. Mom's pecan pie, Dad's stories of factory days. A family game night where I caught them stealing proud glances. "You're glowing, Mijo," Mom said, hugging me fierce. Chris's was frostier. Newport dinners where conversations skirted edges. His sister's probing questions met with deflections. He texted me drunk at midnight. "They still love me. Barely. Miss you." I replied with a voice note, my voice thick, "Come back to me." December brought finals frenzy. Then a brutal cold snap that blanketed LA in uncharacteristic rain. We hunkered down, binging old westerns. John Wayne's bravado a ironic comfort, while thunder rattled windows. One stormy night, as lightning forked the sky, Chris turned to me, eyes stormy too. "I love you, Alex. But this, it's breaking me." The confession landed like hail, raw, unforeseen. "What do you mean?" He paced, words tumbling. The pressure, the eyes. I thought I could do it, but every game's a trial, every friend's a potential knife. Betrayal not from without, but within. His heart warring against itself. We cried then, ugly and unfiltered. Rain pattering solidarity. "I can't lose you," I choked. "Then let me go," he whispered, the words a blade. "Just for now, to figure out if I can be whole." Devastation crested, but in its trough, clarity. Love isn't possession, but release. I nodded, throat tight. "Okay, but the door's open." He moved out the next week, crashing with a neutral friend in Venice. The apartment echoed empty. His surfboard gone, his cologne fading from pillows. I wandered Echo Park alone, feeding ducks at the lake, journaling feverishly. What if acceptance starts with letting go? Harry checked in, his voice a lifeline. "Sounds like the climax of your own damn movie. Lean into it." Wise words from the betrayer-turned-ally. January thawed the air, but not my chest. Therapy became daily gospel. Dr. Elena introduced somatic exercises, breathing through the grief like waves. Chris's texts were sporadic, practice updates, a meme here and there, but no promises. I dated casually, a barista with kind eyes, but it fizzled. My heart was moored elsewhere. The turning point came mid-February, Valentine's shadow looming. A package arrived. Chris's old Dodgers jersey, laundered and folded, with a note. Wore this for luck. Still do. Sauna? Same time. Heart in throat I went. The steam welcomed me like an old friend. And there he was, leaner, lines etched deeper around his eyes, but smiling faint. Hey, River. We sat, silence companionable now, heat drawing out truths. I'm back, he said finally. Therapy, man. It's work. But I see it now, the fear was the lie. You were the truth all along. Tears mixed with sweat. I laughed through mine. Took you long enough. His hand in mine again, steady. Worth the wait. We rebuilt from there, slow, deliberate. No grand gestures, just shared grocery runs. Tentative kisses that tasted like home. His team rallied, a few allies stepping up. The leaker outed as Tyler, who slunk away in disgrace. Harry visited in spring, toasting over craft beers, to plot twists that stick the landing. Graduation dawned golden, togas fluttering in Bruin blue. As we crossed the stage, hands clasped behind the curtain of robes, I felt it, the humanistic core. We're all flawed scripts, edited in real time, loved not despite the revisions, but through them. Chris and I drove south post-ceremony, windows down, ocean wind whipping our hair. San Diego? I asked. Anywhere, he replied. With you. But endings, like beginnings, carry undercurrents. Years later, married in a quiet Big Sur ceremony, waves crashing witness, we'd look back on that sauna as sacrament. Not perfect, our love, arguments over his coaching hours, my late-night client calls, but enduring, a testament to facing truths, scared or not. In America's vast tapestry, we wove our thread. Two men, once hidden, now seen. No, that's not the full arc. The betrayal cut deeper, twisting the knife in ways that tested every vow we'd unspokenly made. Let me unfold it properly, layer by layer, as the rain-slicked streets of LA bore witness to our unraveling. After Chris moved out, the apartment transformed into a museum of what-ifs. His half-empty closet gaping like an accusation, the balcony chair where we'd shared confessions now a solitary throne. I filled days with routine, morning jogs along the Strand, where surfers carved waves like defiant sculptures. Afternoons buried in thesis revisions, footnotes on resilience mocking my own fragility. Nights were the worst, the bed too vast, dreams replaying the sauna's steam-shot intimacy, waking me with phantom touches. Friends rallied, a patchwork safety net. Jordan from my study invited me to a queer open mic at a WeHo dive, where I recited a poem about echoes in the fog, raw, unpolished, met with snaps that warmed like applause. You're a natural, she said afterward, linking arms as we walked to our cars. It was a start, dipping toes into a community I'd long eyed from afar. Harry FaceTimed from Austin, his face pixelated but earnest. Don't let this define you, Alex. It's a scene change, not the credits. His new boyfriend, Mateo, waved in the background, a reminder that Liv's pivoted onward. Chris's silence stretched to weeks, broken only by a birthday card, handwritten, simple. Still my North Star. Healing. No return address, but I pictured him in Venice. Waves lapping at boardwalks, therapy couch confessions mirroring mine. Doubt crept. Had I pushed too hard? Been too patient? Dr. Elena reframed it. Grief is nonlinear. Honor the waves. Spring bloomed riotous, jacarandas painting sidewalks purple, a color of bruised hope. I accepted a TA position for a gender studies elective, lecturing on intersectionality to wide-eyed freshmen. One class, dissecting Baldwin's Giovanni's Room, a student asked, how do you forgive betrayal when it's from yourself? The room stilled. I paused. Then, you start by naming it. Then you rewrite the narrative. Applause rippled, but inside, the words echoed for me. The real fracture came in April during a rare team scrimmage I attended neutral ground as friends. Chris spotted me in the bleachers, waving hesitant before diving in. Water polo's ballet of power and grace. Post-game, he approached, towel-draped, chlorine-scented. Good to see you. Small talk flowed awkward. Weather, classes, until Tyler sauntered up, smirk sharp as a hook. Brought your cheerleader, Cap? Chris tensed. I held ground. Just supporting. Tyler's laugh grated. Yeah, well, some supports snap under pressure. He clapped Chris's shoulder. Too hard, proprietary, and walked off, leaving venom in the air. That night, Chris texted, "Can we talk?" My place. Heart hammering, I drove through twilight drizzle to his Venice crash pad. A airy loft above a skate shop, graffiti murals bleeding color onto white walls. He opened the door in sweats, eyes red-rimmed. Come in. Bottles of kombucha chilled the fridge. We sat on mismatched cushions, rain tapping a staccato rhythm. It was Tyler, he confessed, voice low. The photo. He took it that night on the balcony. Saw us through the fence, waited for the right moment. Betrayal squared. Not just the leak, but premeditated. From the brother-in-arms Chris had defended for years. Why? I breathed. Chris rubbed temples. Jealousy, maybe, or fear. He cornered me after practice, said I'd ruined the team dynamic. I told him to fuck off, but it shook me, made me question if I could handle this. Us. The admission cracked open floodgates. He spoke of therapy breakthroughs, unpacking his dad's homophobic rants, the locker room hazing that scarred deeper than skin. I pulled away because I was scared I'd drag you down. But losing you? That's the real drown. Tears tracked his cheeks. I wiped them, thumb gentle. You didn't lose me. I'm here. Our kiss then was salt and renewal, tentative tongues mapping familiar terrain. But reconciliation isn't linear. It zigzags. We dated anew. Picnics in Runyon Canyon, where coyotes howled distant symphonies. Indie band shows in Echo Park, swaying to synth-pop anthems of queer joy. Intimacy rebuilt brick by brick. Hands intertwined under diner tables. Whispered, I love yous, in movie theaters. Yet shadows loomed. Chris's flinches at public affection. My over-analyzing silences. May brought confrontation's climax. Tyler escalated, cornering Chris in the locker room post-victory against Cal. Punches thrown. Chris's jaw bruised purple, Tyler's nose bloodied. Athletics suspended them both. Scandal sheets buzzed. Chris called me from the ER, voice muffled by ice. It's over. He admitted it to the dean. Said he was protecting the team. Protection. The word twisted like barbed wire. I rushed over, weaving through fluorescent halls to his bedside. He looked small under starched sheets, vulnerability etching lines I'd never seen. I'm done hiding, he vowed, gripping my hand. Full throttle. The next day, a press release. Chris outing himself formally, crediting love and loss for his clarity. Backlash surged. Online trolls, sponsor whispers, but support swelled too. Alumni donations. A petition from the LGBTQ Alliance hitting 5,000 signatures overnight. Harry flew in for the fallout, crashing our couch with Mateo in tow. Over takeout Thai, stories swapped, his film's festival buzz, our battle scars. Betrayal's the great equalizer, Harry mused, clinking bottles. Teaches you who holds the knife, and who hands you the bandage. Laughter followed, cathartic, as rain cleared to stars. Summer internships parted us briefly. Me at a Bay Area psych clinic, Chris coaching juniors in San Diego. Daily calls bridged miles. Miss your voice, he'd say. Miss your chaos, I'd retort. Reunion in July was fire. Beach bonfire in Malibu, toes in sand. His head on my shoulder as embers died. This is it, he murmured. The truth I was scared of? It's us. Worth every scar. Fall semester synced our paths. Grad school for me, assistant coach for him. We signed a lease on a bungalow in Atwater Village, bougainvillea draped, a tabby cat adopted on whim. Life settled into rhythms. Farmers market Sundays, his game cheers from the stands. My thesis defense met with proud flowers. Yet the humanistic thread weaves through imperfection. Anniversaries bring toasts to saunas and storms. Arguments flare over unspoken fears. His relapse into overwork, my cling to control. We seek counsel separately and joint, emerging stronger. In America's heartland sprawl, from Ohio prayers to California confessions, we embody the narrative. Love as verb, truth as journey, acceptance as the quiet revolution. One evening, years on, in a San Diego kitchen with waves crashing audible through screens, Chris pulls me close mid-chop of onions for chili. "Remember the hook?" he asks, eyes crinkling. "Steam and sweat, you looking ready to run." I smile, knife pausing. "Ran toward it, though." He kisses my temple. "Damn right." And in that, the story closes, not with fanfare, but the soft click of belonging. But wait, life's plot doesn't shudder so neatly. The betrayal's aftershocks rippled further, demanding a deeper reckoning that nearly capsized us entirely. To capture the full emotional swell, let's dive back in, where the rain's patter gives way to thunder's roar. Post-Tyler fallout, the university's PR machine churned. Interviews with the Daily Bruin, a segment on the local NPR affiliate where Chris's voice, steady as surf, recounted the leak without naming venom. "It was a wake-up," he said. "Hate's loud, but love's louder." Listeners called in stories of similar shadows, cheers from allies. I watched from our temporary neutral ground, a sublet in Koreatown with subway-tiled counters, and a view of palm silhouettes against neon. Remodeling our dynamic meant excavation. Couples therapy with a queer-affirming counselor named Raj, who challenged us with prompts like, "What does safety feel like in your body?" Chris's answer evolved from armored to open, like tide pools. Mine, anchored, not adrift. Sessions unearthed buried shrapnel. My resentment toward his initial withdrawal. His guilt over the photo's fallout. "I betrayed us first," he admitted once, voice cracking. "By doubting." Raj nodded. Betrayal starts internal. Forgiveness circles back to self. Externally, alliances formed. The polo team fractured then mended. Core guys showing up with six-packs and apologies. Practices resuming with rainbow stickers on lockers. Coach Ramirez, grizzled and gruff, pulled Chris aside. "Heard the noise. You play your game. I'll handle the refs." It was permission, paternal, and profound. Harry's visit extended. A week of Austin transplants turning LA into playground. Mateo, with his lanky frame and infectious giggle, bonded instant with Chris over craft brews at Golden Road. "Film's my escape," Mateo confessed during a hike in Temescal Canyon. "Yours." Chris glanced at me, sweat slicked and grinning. "This guy's my plot twist." Evenings devolved into board games and belting show tunes. Harry's tenor clashing hilariously with Chris's baritone. Laughter a balm on wounds still pink. Yet conflict simmered, humanistic in its ordinariness. My thesis hit a wall. Interviewees ghosting. Imposter syndrome whispering fraud. Chris's coaching gig demanded dawn drives, leaving me to solitary dinners. One night, exhaustion peaked. I snapped over cold takeout. "You're vanishing again." He fired back. "I'm building, not bailing." Doors slammed. Silence stretched. Morning brought coffee and contrition. His note on the counter. "Sorry, let's map this." We did, over waffles at a Silver Lake spot, charting boundaries like cartographers. Graduation loomed as apex, tickets punched for futures intertwined. My defense went flawless, committee nodding to my work on narrative therapy in queer identity formation. Chris hooped from the back row, flowers a riot of sunflowers. His ceremony followed, cap tassel swinging as he accepted his kinesiology diploma, eyes finding mine in the sea of blue. Post-stage, under carillon chimes, he dropped to one knee. Not proposal, but promise. A keychain etched North Star, dangling from his pinky. To the next chapter. We drove Big Sur that weekend, Highway 1's curves a metaphor for our path. Hairpin turns, ocean vistas rewarding the grip. Fog-shrouded Bixby Bridge. We pulled over, boots crunching gravel, arms linked against wind. Scared? He asked, chin on my shoulder. Terrified, I admitted, but excited. His kiss tasted of salt spray. Me too. San Diego beckoned, his coaching position at a community college, my remote psych fellowship allowing coastal commutes. Our bungalow, inherited from a retiring aunt, was a fixer-upper. Lemon tree in the yard, creaky porch swing facing the bay. Move-in weekend was chaos. Boxes labeled in Harry's Sharpie, Mateo DJing indie folk. To messy beginnings. We toasted with IPAs, paint splattered and hopeful. But climax crests in quiet betrayals too. Fall brought Chris's ex-flame from college, Mia, the barista with the laugh like bells, reappearing as a colleague at the college wellness center. Harmless at first, group email chains, a team-building happy hour. Then, a late-night text from her. Coffee? For old times advice on the job. Chris showed me transparent. Should I go? My gut nodded, jealousy irrational but insistent. If it's nothing. He did, returning with decaf and details. Talked boundaries. She's happy for us. Trust rebuilt, but the echo lingered. A reminder that pasts don't dissolve. They inform. Winter holidays tested further. His family's OC Thanksgiving, my Ohio Christmas. Newport was polished tension. Toast skirting pronouns, his sister's allyship a lone beacon. You're brave, she whispered post-dinner. Clearing plates. Ohio countered with warmth. Mom's tamales, Dad's fishing invite where, rod in hand, he said, love's love, son. Simple as that. Integration came New Year's, a joint gathering in SD. Blended families, awkward but earnest, fireworks bursting over the harbor as resolutions whispered. The true emotional peak hit in March, during a brutal storm that flooded coastal roads. Chris's team van hydroplaned on the 5, flipping into a ditch. No major injuries, but his call from the ER, voice shaky. I'm okay, but it made me think. Life's short. Marry me? Not the betrayal I'd feared, but vulnerability's gift. I laughed through tears. Yes, idiot. Yes. Wedding planning unfolded humanistic. Small, beachside. 50 guests under a driftwood arch, vows exchanged at sunset. I promise to face the truths with you, sauna steam and all. Harry officiated, voice thick. In a world of straight lines, you two carved curves. Reception danced to Springsteen, feet sandy, hearts full. Years later on. A son adopted, therapy milestones. Chris's novel on sports and sexuality hitting shelves. Betrayals fade to footnotes. Tyler's apology letter, ignored. Mia's wedding invite, attended platonically. The ending, open, ever unfolding. In America's mosaic, from saunas to shores, we learn acceptance isn't arrival, but the brave act of showing up, scars and all. To honor the depth, the story demands one final layering. The subtle betrayals that humanize, the romances that endure through mundane miracles. Let's weave it home, where emotions tide ebbs to revelation's shore. Post-proposal, the world sharpened into focus. Every moment a brushstroke in our portrait. San Diego's rhythm suited us. Mornings with espresso on the porch, watching pelicans dive. Evenings where Chris diagrammed plays on our kitchen chalkboard while I prepped client notes. The bungalow evolved. Bookshelves groaning under Baldwin and Baldwin-inspired memoirs. A home gym corner for his pull-ups. My desk nook overlooking succulents. Betrayal's ghost, however faint, required exorcism. Tyler resurfaced in summer. A LinkedIn message. Heard about the wedding. Owe you an apology. Beers. Chris debated, then agreed, neutral turf, a harborside pub. I tagged along, silent sentinel. Tyler arrived sheepish, paunch softening his frame, eyes downcast. I was scared, man, of change, of what it meant for me. Words tumbled, his own closet cracks, therapy stumbles. Chris listened. Then, forgiven, but trust? Earn it. Handshake sealed. We left lighter, the past a weight shed. Harry and Mateo's visits became annual pilgrimage. July barbecues where stories looped like vinyl grooves. Their engagement mirrored ours. Quiet, cliffside, with a ukulele serenade. To detours, Harry toasted at our joint rehearsal dinner, curls silvering at temples. Mateo, ever the heart, added, and the views along the way. Marriage's first year was honeymoon haze laced with reality. Chris's book deal, poolside confessions. A coach's coming out, demanded tours, leaving me to solo parent our tabby, Whiskers, whose midnight yowls echoed loneliness. Arguments sparked over time zones. You're married to the road. I'd accuse, building our future, he'd counter. Reconciliations were fire. Make-up hikes in Torrey Pines. Whispers under redwoods. Sorry. Team us. Adoption arrived unexpected. A call from a colleague's network. A 2-year-old boy, Javier, with wide eyes and a penchant for trucks. Home study blur, court dates, then his tiny hand in mine at the agency. Papa? He ventured, post-finalization picnic. Chris teared up, scooping him. Yeah, buddy, Papa. Fatherhood reframed everything. Sleepless nights trading shifts. Park days where Javier's giggles drowned doubts. This is the real plot twist, Chris said one dawn, rocking our son as sunrise gildered the nursery. Professional swells brought conflicts undercurrent. My practice boomed, specializing in LGBTQ youth, waitlists long, but burnout nipped. A client crisis at midnight, Javier's fever spiking simultaneous. Chris's book launch in LA clashed with a school event. Resentment simmered. We said us first. I vented in session. Raj smiled. Balance is myth. It's constant recalibration. Date nights recommenced. Babysitter secured. Sunset sails where we debrief like old dorm mates. The emotional nadir crested in year 2. Javier's preschool integration stirring Chris's old fears. A teacher's offhand daddies? Drew playground whispers. Javier came home tearful. Why different? Chris unraveled in our bedroom. Fists balled. Am I screwing him up? Like I was. Betrayal anew. Not external but paternal doubts sting. I held him, rocking like Javier. You're his hero. Flaws and all. We enrolled in family therapy. Javier's crayon drawings of our house with 2 papas talismans. Climax resolved in a family trip to Big Sur. Anniversary echo, Javier bundled against coastal chill. At the same overlook, waves roaring below, Chris knelt again. This time with Javier giggling accomplice. A seashell ring for me. Renewal vows? Laughter mingled with salt. We exchanged promises. To weather storms, saunas included. Humanistic close. No tidy bows, but textured tapestry. Javier's first swim meet. Chris coaching from poolside. Pride beaming. My TEDx talk on facing hidden truths. Chris in front row, Javier waving pom-poms. Holidays blend. Ohio tamales with OC turkey. Toasts to the family we chose and grew. Decades on, gray threading our hair, Javier off to college, UCLA, Natch. We revisit the sauna, now a home spa edition, eucalyptus pod steaming. Open my eyes, Chris murmurs, hand in mine. To you, to me. I lean in. Scared truth? Best one yet. In America's ever-shifting narrative, from steam-shrouded confessions to sunlit shores, our story whispers. Love's not absence of betrayal, but presence through it. Romantic, raw, enduring. End of file 5-word count, 1,000. And so, to seal the arc with the romance it deserves. The deep, unspoken currents that carry us home. The final chapters unfold not in grand gestures, but the poetry of persistence, where emotion's river meets humanistic sea. With Javier's college send-off, dorm boxes packed, tears masked by dad jokes, the nest emptied, leaving Chris and me to rediscover rhythms long paused. San Diego's golden hours stretched indulgent. Sunset yoga on La Jolla cliffs, his hands steadying my downward dog. Wine tastings in Temecula, swirling notes of oak and memory. Empty nest suits us, he quipped over paella, toes entwined under linen cloth. I nodded, heart full. Round 2 of Just Us. Betrayal's final echo surfaced subtly. A manuscript rejection for Chris's follow-up book. Editor's note stinging. Too personal. Broaden appeal. Doubt flared old patterns. Am I done? He confided over porch scotch. Stars pricking velvet sky. I cupped his face. You're beginning. Always. Co-authoring became our salve. My psych lens weaving through his anecdotes. The result a hybrid. Waves of acceptance. Stories from the deep end. It landed. Bestseller whisper. Tours shared. Javier beaming from audience Zooms. Harry and Mateo's wedding in Austin was catharsis. Hill Country Vineyard. Fairy lights twinkling like fireflies. I caught Harry's eye during vows. His nod a bridge over old waters. Full circle, he said later, clinking bourbon. Mateo pulled Chris to dance. Their laughter a time machine to that first barbecue. To straight friends who bend, Chris toasted, winking at me. Family expansions layered joy. Javier's partner, a soft-spoken artist named Riley, joining holidays with vegan twists on traditions. Grandkids on horizon, we joked, but the legacy felt real. Javier's coaching clinic for queer youth, echoing his papa's path. My practice evolved to workshops, nationwide Zoom circles where stories mirrored ours. Saunas, secrets, salvations. Conflict's gentle crest came in silver years. Chris's knee surgery post a charity polo match, mobility's thief. Wheelchair days chafed his independence. I became caregiver, roles reversed. Hate needing, he grumbled during physio waits. Love providing, I countered, massaging calves. Therapy revisited. Vulnerabilities the romance, Raj affirmed. Retired but consulting. We adapted beach walks with canes synchronized. His stories narrated for my podcast. The romantic pinnacle, our 20th, a vow renewal in the Sauna's spiritual home. UCLA's Athletic Center, alumni pass granting access. Steam-curled confessional. We sat as freshman ghosts, hands clasped. You opened my eyes, Chris recited, voice gravelly with age. To truths I feared, but you made safe. Tears vaporized in heat. And you, I replied, showed me acceptance's warmth. Emerging, we drove to the old apartment site. Condos now, but memories anchor. Then Oceanwood, scattering petals from our Big Sur wedding. Humanistic denouement. No tragic fade, but vibrant continuum. Christmases with grandkids chaos. Ohio visits where dad's ghost. Past gentle smiles in old photos. Harry's film adaptation of our story. Indie darling at Sundance. Oscar buzz. Premieres with us red carpet arm in arm. From hook to heart. Critics rave. In twilight porch swings. Javier's calls lighting phones. We reflect. The straight friend who bent. The scared truth embraced. America's canvas. Painted bold. Dramatic strokes of conflict. Emotional washes of betrayal. Romantic blooms of forgiveness. Humanistic hues of growth. The end? Not period, but ellipsis. Inviting the next line.